Hi everyone, it's Katie and welcome to day 30 of Ethony's 31 Days of Tarot Challenge. This will probably be the last video that I do, but I have loved this challenge and I love this question for today. It is, what is our most inclusive tarot deck? So I think this is a really interesting question and one that I of course love. And I do think there's a few different ways you can go with it. So there's a couple of decks that I want to mention, although I do have one deck that I'm going to be like, this is my answer to the question. I guess I just want to talk about the different ways that people achieve this inclusivity. And I guess one would be something like the Mesquite Tarot, in which basically people are not presented very often, and when they are, it's using really neutral sort of imagery. So where we can't really tell you know, gender identity, racial identity, cultural identity, it's basically a stick figure that can stand in for anyone. So that is one example of where you know, people see these decks as quite inclusive. Although I would almost say that they're the opposite, but it's kind of like this circle that comes back around. So this is an interesting one because it's not explicitly inclusive, but the way in which the art is done certainly means that it lends itself to being not exclusionary. So yeah, this is one deck, this sort of style I think is an interesting kind of addition to this conversation. The next deck I want to talk about is the World Spirit Tarot. Now this, I'm pretty sure I used this deck to answer this question last year, and you know, it very much could be in this category again. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because it's diverse in a different way, slightly similar but different way to the deck that I'm going to be talking about, in that it kind of more depicts some more of the traditional, I don't want to say stereotypical, but perhaps that is the right word, imagery of people from different cultures. Like there's a little bit more of that, of somebody being in a picture, in their attire, in the scenario, you know, surrounded by things that, you know, are from that culture. A little bit more than the deck that I'm going to talk about next. It is of course beautifully diverse in other ways as well, just in terms of racial diversity, and the court cards are renamed so that they're not so like hierarchical in terms of gender differences. So this is a really wonderful deck and remains one of my favorite decks, largely because it is so diverse, also because it's just such a fabulous reader, but there is a lot of diversity in this deck too. I guess it's just a little bit easier to identify cultural differences in this deck. But my most diverse deck that I own as of a few weeks ago is the Next World Tarot, which I've recently done kind of like a walkthrough early impressions video of. Now this is kind of like the complete opposite of the Mesquite Tarot, in the sense that rather than kind of neutralizing identity and removing identity from the equation, this kind of depicts as many identities as is possible in a 78 card deck, and that is why it's so brilliant and beautiful. Now the reason that I wanted to talk about the World Spirit, and I hope this comes across well, is the fact that, as I said in my walkthrough, that this is fairly American centric. That's what it feels like to me. And so even though there are different cultural practices and ethnicities represented in this deck for sure, they don't feel as explicitly cultural diversities as opposed to racial and ethnic and gender, if that makes sense. The Next World Tarot feels like a very, very modern urban depiction of different people in an urban modern situation, whereas the World Spirit Tarot feels a little bit more like a worldwide view of diversity, and then the Mesquite, as I said, is more just like a stripping away of identities. So it's interesting to me how those three decks approach diversity in different ways, and they achieve different things because of that. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I look forward to having a chat with you guys in the comments about other diverse decks that you're loving at the moment. I'm also really looking forward to the Numinous Tarot, which is coming out soon. I backed it on Kickstarter. It should be here sometime in the next few months, hopefully. And I'll talk to you guys in the comments and in another video very soon. So much love. Bye.